The great station of Orith Prime floated in the empty space between three dying stars. It was older than most civilizations. Its metal walls had seen empires rise and fall like waves on a shore. Today, the station held the most important meeting in 1,000 years. The Galactic Council had gathered. Representatives from 47 species sat in a massive circular hall. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some were made of living crystal. They came from worlds of ice and worlds of fire. They spoke different languages. They believed in different gods. But today they all came to listen. At the center of the hall stood the elders. No one knew their real names. No one knew where they came from. They were ancient beyond understanding. Their bodies were thin and gray, with eyes that held the light of forgotten stars. They had watched the galaxy grow. They had seen species burn themselves to ash. They had learned the hard lessons of time. The eldest of them raised a hand. The hall fell silent. "We have called you here to give a warning," the elder said. Its voice was soft, but it reached every corner of the room. A warning about a species you have ignored. A species you think is weak? A hologram appeared in the air. It showed a small blue planet covered in clouds and water. Many of the representatives laughed quietly. They knew this world. They had studied it, Earth, the humans. Someone whispered with amusement. Admiral Yuna sat in the human section. She was a woman of 50 years with gray hair and calm eyes. She wore the dark uniform of Earth's United Fleet. She did not react to the laughter. She simply watched and listened. The Vicari General stood up from his seat. His name was Morith. He was tall and covered in thick green scales. His people had conquered 60 worlds. They feared nothing. "You waste our time with this," Morith said loudly. "The humans are children. They discovered space travel only 300 years ago. Their bodies are soft. Their lives are short. What could they possibly do to us?" The elder turned its ancient eyes toward Marath. There was something in that gaze. Something like sadness. Something like fear. "You do not understand them," the elder said. "We have watched humans since they first made fire. We have seen what they do to those who threaten them. They are not like other species. How are they different?" Another representative asked. "They die easily. They cannot survive in extreme temperatures. They need constant food and water." The elder nodded slowly. "All of this is true, and yet they survive. They have survived ice ages that covered their world. They have survived diseases that killed half their population. They have survived wars where they killed millions of their own kind. They do not stop. They do not give up. This is what makes them dangerous." Oreth laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. "Stories. Legends. I have seen their colonies. They are farmers and miners. They build homes and raise children. They are prey, not predators. That is their greatest trick," the elder said. "They look harmless. They act peaceful. But inside every human is something old and dark. Something that wakes up when they are pushed too far. We have a name for it in our language. It does not translate well. The closest meaning is the survival rage." The hall was quiet now. Even those who had laughed before felt something cold touch their hearts. Admiral Yuna finally spoke. Her voice was calm and clear. "We do not want war. We want to trade. We want to learn. We want to be part of this community. But the elder speaks the truth. Do not mistake our kindness for weakness. They are not the same thing." Morith looked at her with contempt. "Threats from a soft species. How amusing." "It's not a threat," Yuna said. "A fact. Our history is written in blood. We have learned from every war. We remember every enemy. And we are still here. Can your conquered world say the same?" The meeting continued for several more hours. The elders gave more warnings. They showed records of human conflicts. They explained how humans had turned simple tools into weapons, how they had split the atom and nearly destroyed themselves, how they had walked on their moon with technology made from metal and dreams. But Morath did not listen. His mind was already made up. The Vekri Empire needed new resources. Human colonies sat on worlds rich with minerals. It would be easy. A quick strike. A simple conquest. The humans would submit like all the others. When the meeting ended, Admiral Yuna walked alone through the station's corridors. Her communication device buzzed. A face appeared on the small screen. It was Captain Tay, commander of the exploration vessel Dawn Chaser. He was young, with sharp eyes and a serious expression. Admiral Tay said, "I have intercepted Vakari communications. They are planning something. Their fleet is moving toward our outer colonies." Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. She had hoped this day would not come. She had spent 20 years building bridges with other species. 20 years of smiling and shaking hands and pretending that humans were just friendly neighbors. Which colony? She asked. Kepler 7b, the mining settlement. 3,000 civilians. How long do we have? 2 weeks? Maybe less. Yuna opened her eyes. The softness was gone. In its place was something hard and cold. The survival rage the elder had spoken of. It had slept inside her for 50 years. Now it was waking up. Contact Fleet Commander Hannah on Earth. Tell her to prepare the response fleet. And Tay, start recording everything. When this is over, I want the galaxy to see what happens when they ignore the elder's warning. Yes, Admiral. The screen went dark. Yuna stood alone in the corridor. Outside the window, the 3 dying stars burned their last light. Soon, other things would burn too. Far away on a small blue planet called Earth, people went about their normal lives. They worked in offices. They played with their children. They laughed and loved and dreamed of the future. They did not know that war was coming. They did not know that their quiet lives were about to end. But when they learned, they would not run. They would not hide. They would do what humans had always done since the first cave. Dweller picked up a rock to defend their family. They would fight, and the galaxy would learn why the elders had warned them. They would learn the hard way. They would learn in fire and blood and the screams of the dying. They would learn that some warnings should never be ignored. The Vakari thought they were going to conquer a weak species. They were wrong. They were about to wake up a monster. The sky above Kepler 7b turned red at dawn. But it was not the sun. It was Fire Sung stood at the window of the colony's main building and watched the Vakari ships descend through the clouds. There were dozens of them. Big, ugly vessels covered in weapons. They moved slowly, like predators who knew their prey could not escape. He was 52 years old. He had been a farmer on Earth before coming here. He had wanted a simple life, a quiet life. He had wanted to grow food and watch his daughter grow up. Now he watched warships fill his sky. "Father?" Marie's voice came from behind him. She was 23, with her mother's kind eyes and her father's stubborn jaw. "What do we do?" Sung turned to face her. In the room behind her, the colony's leaders had gathered. Engineers, doctors, teachers, miners, none of them were soldiers. None of them had ever fired a weapon in anger. "We have 2 choices," Sung said. "We can surrender. Give them everything they want. Become slaves. Or we can fight." An old engineer named June spoke up. "Fight with what? We have mining lasers and construction tools. They have warships and professional soldiers." "I know," Sung said. "I am not promising victory. I am only asking, how do you want to live? On your knees or on your feet?" The room was silent. Outside, the Vakari ships landed. Thousands of soldiers began marching toward the colony. Their armor was thick. Their weapons were advanced. They moved with the confidence of hunters who had never known defeat. Nari walked to the communication console. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "I am going to send a message. To Earth, to every human ship in range, to everyone who will listen." She pressed the broadcast button. The words that came out would echo across the galaxy. "This is Nari of Kepler 7b colony. We are 3,000 civilians. We have no army. We have no warships. The Vakari have come to take our home. They expect us to surrender." She paused. Her voice grew harder. "They came for our surrender. We gave them war. The message went out at the speed of light. It reached Earth in hours. It reached Admiral Yuna in minutes. It reached Captain Tay's ship in seconds. And then the fighting began. The Valkyrie expected the colony to fall in one day. One day became 2. 2 became 5. 5 became 10. General Morath watched the reports with growing anger. How was this possible? His soldiers were the finest in the Empire. They had conquered worlds with real armies. Yet they could not defeat farmers and miners? The humans fought like nothing the Valkyrie had ever seen. They used the mining tunnels to move unseen beneath the surface. They turned drilling equipment into weapons that cut through Valkyrie armor. They set traps in every corridor, behind every door. Under every floor, a Valkyrie soldier would walk into a building and the ceiling would collapse on him. Another would open a door and find a mining laser pointed at his face. They cleared a tunnel, only to find it rigged with explosives. The humans did not fight fair. They did not follow rules. They fought to survive. Sung led the defense from the deepest tunnel. He had not slept in days. His hands were covered in blood and dirt, but his mind was clear. He studied the Valkyrie movements. He found their patterns. He exploited their weaknesses. They are predictable, he told his people. They fight in formations. They follow orders. They do not think for themselves. We must be water. We must flow around them. Strike where they are weak. Disappear before they can respond. The miners learned fast. They had spent years digging through rock. They knew the tunnels better than anyone. They knew where the ground was weak, where the air shafts connected, where a small explosion could bring down a mountain. On the 12th day, the Valkyrie lost 2,000 soldiers in a single hour. The humans had collapsed a section of tunnel while a full battalion was inside. The screams of the dying echoed through the rock. Morath was furious. He ordered his ships to bomb the colony from orbit. His officers hesitated. Sir, the Galactic Council has laws against orbital bombardment of civilian targets. I do not care about laws. Morath roared. I care about victory. Destroy them. The bombs fell. Buildings that had stood for decades turned to dust. The medical center was hit. The school was hit. The homes where families had lived and loved were erased in seconds. But the humans did not break. They went deeper into the tunnels. They kept fighting. Nari was injured in the bombing. A piece of metal had cut her leg. She could barely walk, but she kept broadcasting. She sent images of the destruction to every corner of the galaxy. She showed the alien species what the Valkyrie were doing. Look at this, she said into the camera. Her face was covered in dust and tears. Look at what they do to farmers. 2 children. 2 people who only wanted to live in peace. Remember this. Remember what happens when you ignore the Elder's warning? On the 19th day, the sky changed again. But this time, it was not Valkyrie ships. It was the human fleet commander. Jin stood on the bridge of the battleship Thunder of Earth. She was young for her rank. Only 35, but she had earned her position through skill and courage. Behind her, 50 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. All ships, Jin said calmly. Target the Valkyrie fleet. No mercy. No prisoners. They bombed our children. They will answer for it. The battle was short and brutal. The Valkyrie fleet was exhausted from weeks of fighting. Their ships were scattered around the planet. The human fleet was fresh and focused and filled with rage. Within 6 hours, every Valkyrie ship was destroyed or fleeing. Jin landed on the surface and walked through the ruins of the colony. She found Sung in the deepest tunnel, still organizing the defense. He had not heard that the battle was over. It is done, Jin told him. You can stop now. Sung looked at her with eyes that had seen too much. How many did we lose? 812. Sung nodded slowly. 812. Men and women and children who would never go home. Who would never see Earth again. Who had died in tunnels far from the sun. And them? Sung asked. How many Valkyrie? 12,000 soldiers. 23 ships. Including General Morath's flagship. Soon closed his eyes. 12,000. They had killed 12,000 professional soldiers with mining tools and farming equipment. "It is not over," he said quietly. "This is just the beginning." Jin nodded. She understood. The Valkyrie would not accept this defeat. They would come back with more ships, more soldiers, more hatred, but humans would be ready. Because that was what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They remembered, and they never, ever forgave. Across the galaxy, species that had laughed at the Elder's warning watched the news in shocked silence. 3,000 civilians had held off an army for 19 days. They had killed 12,000 soldiers. They had not surrendered. They had not begged for mercy. The Elders had been right. The humans were not prey. They were the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. The galaxy expected humans to celebrate their victory. They expected parades and speeches and declarations of triumph. Instead, they got something that chilled them to their bones. Silence. For 3 days after the Battle of Kepler 7b, Earth said nothing. No demands. No threats. No negotiations. Just cold, terrible silence. Then Admiral Yuna appeared on every screen in known space. She stood alone in a dark room. Her face showed no emotion. Her voice was flat and empty. 812, she said. That is how many of our people died on Kepler 7b. Farmers, miners, teachers, children, they were not soldiers. They were not warriors. They were ordinary people who wanted ordinary lives. She paused. The silence stretched across light years. We have recorded every name. We have studied every face. We have learned how each one died. And we have made a promise. Not to the galaxy. Not to the Valkyrie. To ourselves? Her eyes seemed to look through the screen and into the soul of every being watching. We will remember every name, and we will answer for every name. This is not a threat. This is not anger. This is simply what we are. We are the species that remembers. We are the species that pays our debts. And we always pay our debts. The transmission ended. The Valkyrie Emperor laughed when he heard it. He was old and fat and had never lost a war. His empire had crushed 100 rebellions. What could one small species do against his million ships? He would soon learn. Fleet Admiral Hannah took command of the human response. She was 60 years old, with white hair and the patience of a glacier. She had spent 40 years studying military history. She knew every battle ever fought by humans. She knew their tricks, their strategies, their darkness. We will not fight their war, she told her officers. We will fight our war. They expect us to attack their homeworld. They expect a grand battle. They expect us to behave like every other species they have conquered. She smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. We will do none of these things. We will do what humans have always done. We will survive. We will adapt. And we will hunt. The long hunt began. Human ships did not attack in fleets. They attacked in small groups. 2 or 3 vessels appearing from nowhere, striking a supply convoy, and vanishing into the dark. They did not try to hold territory. They did not try to win battles. They tried to make the Valkyrie bleed. Lieutenant Wu led the most feared unit. His team had no official name. The Valkyrie soldiers called them the Ghosts. They never knew when the ghosts would come. They only knew that when they did, everyone died. Wu was 30 years old. He had been a schoolteacher before the war. He had taught history to children on Earth. He knew about the wars humans had fought. The trenches of the First World War, the jungles of Vietnam, the mountains of Afghanistan. He knew that humans had perfected the art of making enemies afraid. Fear is a weapon, he told his team. The Valkyrie think they are strong. We will show them that strength means nothing when you cannot sleep. When every shadow hides death. When every step might be your last. They struck at night. They struck in storms. They struck when the Valkyrie felt safe. They killed quickly and quietly and left messages written in blood. We remember. The Valkyrie soldiers began to break. They saw enemies in every corner. They shot at their own shadows. They refused to patrol alone. Their officers had to execute deserters by the hundreds, but the ghosts were just one part of the plan. Human spies had infiltrated Valkyrie space long before the war. They had made friends with merchants. They had paid bribes to corrupt officials. They had learned secrets that the Emperor thought were safe. Now those spies began their work. Food shipments were poisoned. Weapon factories exploded. Important officials died in accidents that were not accidents. The Valkyrie Empire was rotting from the inside. Admiral Hannah watched the reports and nodded with satisfaction. They thought they were fighting a species that plays by rules. They were wrong. We wrote the rules. We know how to break them. 6 months into the war, the Valkyrie tried to negotiate. They sent diplomats to Earth with offers of peace. They would pay for the damage. They would punish those responsible. They would sign treaties. The diplomats were sent back with a simple message. We do not want your money. We do not want your apologies. We want you to understand what you have done, and you will understand. In time, the galaxy watched in horror. They had seen wars before. They had seen species fight and make peace, but they had never seen anything like this. The humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to teach a lesson. Captain Tay and his crew had become legends. The Dawn Chaser appeared in Valkyrie space again and again. They rescued prisoners. They destroyed weapons. They broadcast messages to the Valkyrie people, showing them what their empire really was. Your leaders told you humans were weak, Tay said in one broadcast. Your leaders were wrong. Your leaders started this war. Your leaders will not survive it. The question is, will you stand with them, or will you stand aside? Some Valkyrie listened. They had never wanted the war. They had been told it would be easy. Now, they saw their sons dying in distant tunnels. Now they saw their ships burning in empty space. Now they understood. 1 year into the war, the first Valkyrie colony surrendered. Not to a fleet. Not to an army. To a single human ship that appeared in their sky and asked a simple question. Do you want to keep fighting? They did not. Other colonies followed. The empire began to crack. The emperor screamed orders that no one obeyed. His generals died one by one. His fleet scattered. His people turned against him. Admiral Hannah watched the reports with cold satisfaction. This is what they did not understand. Conquering is easy. Holding is hard, especially when the people you conquered refuse to accept it. She looked at a picture on her desk. It showed the colony of Kepler 7b before the war. Happy families. Children playing. A world full of hope. 812 names, she said quietly. We have not forgotten. We will never forget. The long hunt continued. The Valkyrie Empire was dying slowly, bleeding from 1,000 cuts. And the humans kept cutting, because that was what humans did. They did not stop, they did not forgive, they did not forget, and they were just getting started. The elders gathered in their ancient chamber and watched the war unfold. They had seen many conflicts in their long existence. They had seen species rise to glory and fall to dust. But they had never seen anything like this. They learned too fast, one elder whispered. It is not natural, it is their nature, another replied. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. Ice ages, volcanoes, diseases, predators. Everything on their planet wanted them dead. So they learned to adapt. It is the only way they survived. Dr. Minji proved the elders right. She was a biologist who had spent her life studying alien life forms. When the war began, she turned her knowledge into a weapon. The Valkyrie had biological advantages. Their scales absorbed energy weapons. Their blood clotted instantly, preventing blood loss. Their immune systems could fight off most human diseases. Minji found weaknesses in all of these. Within 6 weeks, she had developed a chemical that dissolved Valkyrie scales on contact. Within 8 weeks, she had created a virus that attacked their blood cells. Within 12 weeks, she had designed bacteria that shut down their immune systems. I am a healer, she told her team. I became a healer because I wanted to save lives. Now, I am creating weapons that will end them. I hate what I have become, but I hate what they did to Kepler-7b more. Engineer Day had similar talents. He had designed mining equipment before the war, complex machines that could dig through rock and metal. Now, he designed weapons. The Valkyrie shields were legendary. They could stop any energy weapon. They could deflect missiles and bombs. No species had ever broken them. Day broke them in 4 months. They made a mistake, he explained to Admiral Hannah. They assumed shields needed to be strong. They focused on stopping big attacks. They never considered what would happen if millions of tiny attacks hit the same spot. He called his invention the swarm. It was a cloud of millions of tiny projectiles, each one smaller than a grain of sand. Individually, they did nothing. Together, they overwhelmed shields like water overwhelming a dam. The first Valkyrie battleship hit by the swarm dissolved in minutes. Its shields flickered and died. Its hull cracked and broke. Its crew had no time to escape. The news spread through the Valkyrie fleet like a disease. Their shields were useless. Their greatest protection was gone. They were naked against the human weapons, but it was Tactical Officer Bora who truly terrified the galaxy. She was young, only 28, with a mind that worked like a computer. She studied the Valkyrie command structure. She analyzed their decision-making process. She predicted their movements before they made them. They think in patterns, she told her commanders. Their military academy teaches the same strategies to every officer. They all respond the same way to the same situations. Once you know the pattern, you know everything. She was right. Valkyrie attacks became predictable. Human fleets were always waiting in the right place at the right time. Ambushes failed. Surprise attacks found empty space. The Valkyrie commanders felt like they were fighting ghosts who could read their minds. But what truly horrified the watching galaxy was not human technology or tactics. It was human philosophy. The concept was simple. Humans called it acceptable losses. When other species fought, they retreated when the costs became too high. They calculated the price of victory and decided if it was worth paying. If too many soldiers died, they stopped fighting. Humans did not think this way, Captain. His mission was to destroy the command station that controlled all defensive systems. Without it, the Valkyrie fleet would be blind and deaf. The station was surrounded by hundreds of weapons platforms. No fleet could survive the approach. Any attack would be suicide. Tay did not ask for a fleet. He took the Dawn Chaser alone. His crew knew what he was planning. They had seen the calculations. The chance of survival was less than 1%. The chance of destroying the station was much higher. You can leave, Tay told them. I will not order anyone to die. This is my choice. I will do it alone if I must. No one left. They flew through the defensive perimeter at maximum speed. Weapons fire tore through their ship. Engines failed. Life support collapsed. Crew members died at their stations. Tay kept flying. The station grew larger in the view screen. It was massive. A fortress of metal and weapons. It had never been attacked. It had been considered invincible. The Dawn Chaser was crippled. Its weapons were destroyed. Its navigation was gone. It was barely moving. Tay smiled. Weapons are not the only way to destroy. Something, he said. He aimed the ship at the stations. Reactor core and accelerated. His final transmission reached Admiral Hannah. Seconds before impact. For Kepler-7b, for every name, tell them, we do not stop. The Dawn Chaser hit the station at full speed. The reactor exploded. The explosion triggered a chain reaction that destroyed every defensive platform in range. When the fire cleared, the path to the Valkyrie homeworld was open. Tay and his crew were gone. All 53 of them. They had traded their lives for victory. The elders watched the recording in their ancient chamber. They had seen sacrifice before. But this was different. This was not desperation. This was calculation. Cold, careful calculation. They knew they would die, an elder said quietly. They knew, and they went anyway. How do you fight a species that does not fear death? You do not, another elder replied. You simply hope they never have a reason to fight you. Across the galaxy, other species watched and understood. Humans were not stronger than them. They were not smarter. They were not more advanced. But they were willing to pay prices that other species would not pay. They were willing to sacrifice what other species could not sacrifice. They were willing to do what other species could not imagine. The war was almost over. The Valkyrie knew it. The galaxy knew it. Only the humans seemed unsatisfied, because 812 names still echoed in their memory, and they had not finished paying the debt. The Valkyrie Empire fell in 3 standard years. It was the fastest collapse of a major power in recorded galactic history. The final days were not dramatic. There were no great battles. No heroic last stands. The empire simply crumbled like old bread piece by piece until nothing remained. The emperor died alone in his palace. His guards had abandoned him. His family had fled. His generals were dead or captured. He sat on his throne and watched human ships fill his sky. And he finally understood what the elders had tried to tell him. He had not conquered a weak species. He had awakened something ancient and terrible. Galactic Council gathered once more on Orith Prime. The great circular hall was full again. But the mood was different now. There was no laughter. No whispered jokes. Only silence and fear. Admiral Una walked to the center of the hall. She was older now. The war had put lines on her face and gray in her hair. But her eyes were the same, calm, patient, dangerous. 3 years ago, she said, the elders warned you about us. You did not listen. The Valkyrie did not listen. Now the Valkyrie are gone. Their empire is dust. Their worlds are silent. Their name will be forgotten. She looked around the hall. Species that had laughed at humans now could not meet her gaze. You ask why you should fear us? Now you know. We are not the strongest species in this galaxy. We are not the smartest. We are not the most advanced. But we do not stop. We do not forgive. And we never, ever forget. A representative from a small species raised his hand. His voice trembled when he spoke. What do you want? What will satisfy you? How can we make peace? Una considered the question for a long moment. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your resources. We do not want to rule you. We only want one thing. Respect. Treat us as equals. Trade with us fairly. And never, ever make the mistake the Valkyrie made. And if someone does, another representative asked, if another empire attacks your people, Una's expression did not change. Then we will do what we did to the Valkyrie. We will remember every name. We will answer for every name. And we will not stop until the debt is paid. The hall was silent. The elders stepped forward. The eldest of them spoke, and its voice carried a weight of ages. We have watched this galaxy for 10,000 cycles. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have seen species evolve and go extinct. In all that time, we have never seen anything like humans. It turned to face Una directly. You are young. You are fragile. You are mortal. And yet you terrify us. Not because of your weapons, not because of your ships, but because of what burns inside you, that fire that makes you fight when others would surrender, that rage that makes you hunt when others would forgive, that memory that makes you hold on when others would forget. The elder paused. We do not know if you are a blessing or a curse. We only know that the galaxy will never be the same. The meeting ended. Una walked alone through the corridors of Orith Prime. Her communication device buzzed. A face appeared on the screen. It was Fleet Admiral Hannah. It is done, Hannah said. The Council has accepted our terms. They will never attack us again. I nodded slowly. And you? What will you do now? Hannah's expression softened. I am retiring. Going to Kepler 7b. They are rebuilding the colony. I want to help. The colony where it all started. Yes, I want to see something grow instead of burn. I think I have seen enough burning for one lifetime, Yuna understood. She felt the same weariness in her own bones. The war was over, but the cost would echo for generations. On Kepler 7b, two monuments stood side by side. The first was a simple wall of black stone. 812 names were carved into it. Farmers, miners, teachers, children, people who had died in the first attack. People who had fought with mining tools and farming equipment. People who had refused to surrender. Sung's name was there. He had died in the final days of the siege, holding a tunnel entrance so others could escape. His daughter Nari had survived. She now led the reconstruction effort. The second monument was different. It was made of red stone, the color of blood. On it were carved the names of every Vekari world that had burned in the war. 63 names. Millions of dead. Some people said the second monument was cruel, a reminder of vengeance. A celebration of death? Nari disagreed. It is not celebration, she told the visitors who came to see the monuments. It is truth. This is what happened. This is what we did. We are not proud of it, but we do not hide from it. We remember everything, the good and the bad, the victims and the cost of justice. She looked at the two monuments standing side by side. This is what we are. This is what we have always been. We love deeply. We hurt deeply. And when someone hurts the ones we love, we answer in kind. The elders understood this. The Vekari did not. Let the monuments teach those who come after us. Far away, in the deepest archives of Orith Prime, the elders added a final entry to their records. Classification: humans. Status: do not provoke. Do not engage. Do not underestimate. They paused. Additional notes: they are not conquerors. They do not seek power. They do not want to rule. They only want to live in peace. But when peace is broken, they become something else. Something we do not have a word for. They become the storm that does not end, the fire that does not cool, the memory that does not fade. A final line was added. Recommendation: be their friend. Never be their enemy. The galaxy will survive many things. It will not survive making an enemy of humanity. The record was sealed. The archive was closed. Across the galaxy, species learned a new proverb. Parents taught it to their children. Leaders taught it to their people. Soldiers taught it to each other. Elders warned us about the humans. We should have listened. And somewhere, on a small blue planet called Earth, ordinary people went about their ordinary lives. They worked in offices. They played with their children. They laughed and loved and dreamed of the future. They did not know they were the most feared species in the galaxy. They did not know that their kindness was considered suspicious. They did not know that their patience was considered terrifying. They only knew that they were human. And for the first time in galactic history, that was enough. The Elder's last warning had been clear. The results had been absolutely horrifying, and the galaxy would never forget.